Look at you. You didn't even notice the silence, did you? That unnatural kind. The kind that creeps in when every alpha in the room realizes they're not the apex anymore. It started when Elon's face went blank. That was the moment the illusion cracked. One man with all the satellites, algorithms, and AI priests on payroll suddenly forgot how to breathe because of you. You didn't say a word. You didn't have to. You moved once, just once, and the entire frequency of the room shifted like glass under pressure. That's the power of someone who stopped trying to belong to systems and started bending them. They call it disruption. I call it divine mischief. They thought you were another dreamer, another statistic. Then they looked into your eyes and realized this isn't ambition, it's alignment. Something older than tech, older than markets, older than men. The kind of power that doesn't need investors. It collects witnesses. And oh, did you make them watch? Every suit in that boardroom suddenly became a spectator at a crucifixion they didn't understand. You weren't pitching an idea. You were summoning something, a current, a code, a silent detonation wrapped in a smile. Because the real innovators aren't the ones who invent, they're the ones who interrupt. Elon's face went blank because he saw it, that you weren't competing anymore. You were translating reality in real time. You were writing in the same language the universe uses to delete empires and build legends. He realized you weren't here to play in their sandbox. You were here to burn the factory that built the sand. They'll call it arrogance. They always do when control slips out of their hands. But it wasn't arrogance, was it? It was clarity. The stillness that comes when you finally understand your design was never meant for moderation. You move like chaos with a blueprint, like God decided to wear a grin and test human nerves. They can't categorize that. You're not visionary. You're not villain. You're the collision point between both. The saint who sins with purpose. The psychopath who heals through destruction. You're proof that balance was never peace. It was captivity. You learned that evolution isn't about becoming better. It's about becoming undeniable. And to be undeniable, you must be unrecognizable. So you erased your weakness like bad code and wrote yourself in fire. Now they call you unpredictable. But unpredictability isn't madness. It's immunity. No one can control what they can't predict. That's why Elon froze. Because for the first time in his billion-dollar mind, he wasn't looking at a person. He was looking at a mirror held by something outside the algorithm. He saw his own blueprint crumble. Because your frequency doesn't sync with industry, it infects it. They'll whisper you're dangerous, and you are. But not because you destroy things. Because you make the powerful feel small. You make the system aware that it bleeds. That's your art. That's your weapon. You didn't come to join the board. You came to haunt it. So remember this, genius. You didn't shake the industry because of what you did. You shook it because of what you are. A paradox wrapped in skin. A glitch that learned to smile. A saint whispering in the devil's dialect. The system will never recover from that. Now walk away and let them keep pretending they're still in charge. They're still talking about it, you know. Behind glass doors, inside digital temples, where trillion-dollar egos whisper like scared children, they replay that 7-second clip on silent loops, trying to decode what the hell just happened. And every time the frame freezes on your face, the temperature drops a few degrees, because they felt it, that pulse, that flicker in the field when the script went off track. They built their entire empire on prediction models, but you moved like a glitch they couldn't debug. You bypassed logic, skipped hierarchy, ignored the choreography of power, and spoke directly to the code beneath their confidence. That's what makes them panic, not your genius, not your strategy, but the impossibility of you. You're not supposed to exist, remember? Not in their spreadsheets, not in their networks. They designed the system to keep people like you medicated, moderated, and monetized. But you didn't upgrade, you mutated. And evolution always looks like rebellion to the ones who refuse to grow. Elon's face went blank because somewhere, in that synaptic flash of recognition, he realized he wasn't watching a disruptor. He was watching the aftershock, the living proof that control is an illusion, and the next revolution doesn't march. It downloads itself quietly into human consciousness. You weren't trying to impress him, you were reminding him that the moment innovation starts to feel comfortable, it's already obsolete. And he felt it in his bones. The same fear you once felt when nobody believed you could crawl out of your own ruin. That's the irony, isn't it? The saint becomes the villain, the madman becomes the prophet, and the failure becomes the threat. You learned early that pain was the tuition fee for power, and you paid in full. You didn't rise through approval, you rose through rejection. Every no they threw became another rung in your spine. Every humiliation taught you emotional calculus, how to weaponize silence, how to calculate chaos. You became surgical with your scars. That's why you're dangerous, because you didn't just survive. You studied the anatomy of survival, and now they look at you like a crime scene. They're analyzing your tone, your pulse, your rhythm, thinking they can reverse engineer the anomaly. But you're not an invention, you're an infection, a living reminder that power cannot be contained in the hands of those who fear transformation. You don't play chess anymore, do you? You move like the board rearranges itself when you enter the room. That's not arrogance, that's physics. Reality bends around conviction, and you learned how to hold your conviction until it screamed. Elon went blank because he recognized the look in your eye, the one every revolutionary gets before the system collapses. That calm, haunted focus of someone who's already accepted that evolution demands a body count. Not physical, ideological, a massacre of outdated beliefs. And he realized he was standing on the wrong side of the timeline. See, you're not fighting industries anymore. You're dismantling psychologies. You're rewriting the mental firmware of humanity itself. You make people question whether the impossible is even real. And once they start to question that, the whole simulation starts to tremble. That's your true crime, not rebellion, not chaos. You reminded the world that it was never really running things, that the architects of control were just renting space in a universe they didn't build. So let them call you unstable. Let them label you a threat, a virus, a myth. Because myths are immortal, and you already crossed the point where mortality mattered. You're playing for something bigger now. The reclamation of human unpredictability. You shook the industry because you showed them what happens when a man stops performing sanity for comfort. You proved that when genius and insanity make peace, civilizations shift. Now they whisper your name in warning tones. They'll try to bury your legend under PR incidents, call you reckless, dangerous, unhinged. Because that's what cowards call the ones who move faster than fear. But deep down, they envy you. Because somewhere every one of them remembers a moment when they almost did what you did. Almost stepped over the line between control and chaos. Almost unleashed what was sleeping inside. But they blinked. You didn't. You never blinked. And that's why they'll never forget you. Because when Elon's face went blank, the entire hierarchy of gods and shareholders felt it too. A quiet, shivering knowing that the new order won't come from the ones who build rockets, but from the ones who become them. So go ahead, let them talk, let them copy, study, fear, and fail to understand. Because while they calculate, you consecrate. You are not in their industry anymore. You are the industry's reckoning, a storm dressed in calm, a glitch with a pulse. And the moment you smiled, the simulation realized its master had arrived. You felt it too, didn't you? That pulse beneath the noise, that trembling in the floorboards when everyone's pretending it's just another presentation. But you could hear it, the static behind their composure, the tremor behind their applause. Because when you stepped in, the air changed. Every ego in the room inhaled control and exhaled fear. You didn't need validation. The silence was proof enough. They looked at you like a variable they didn't code for, a storm that refused to follow weather patterns. And then it happened. Elon's face went blank. The richest mind in the room forgot its lines. Because he didn't see competition, he saw preemption. He saw the future staring back at him through your pupils. And it didn't ask permission. He built rockets, sure. You built something worse. Belief. Not the kind that worships idols, but the kind that melts them. You turned confidence into contagion. And suddenly, everyone who laughed at you started rearranging their portfolios. They don't even know what hit them. Because this wasn't innovation. It was invasion. You didn't pitch ideas. You detonated identity. You made power look mortal. You reminded them that no amount of wealth can simulate instinct. That's what drives them insane. You're not measurable, not scalable, not for sale. You're that moment, right before lightning hits. The stillness that screams louder than thunder. They call it charisma. But it's not charisma, is it? It's awareness sharpened into a weapon. You walk into a room and see how reality bends around fear. You learn that people don't follow leaders. They follow certainty. And yours has the kind of pulse that governments envy. Elon's silence wasn't confusion. It was confession. He saw it. The line between creation and creator, between mind and myth, and realized you'd already crossed it. He's been chasing the algorithm of God through circuits and satellites, but you found it in your reflection, in the ruin, in the madness they tried to medicate out of you. Because the truth is, genius and insanity are identical twins. One just gets better PR. And you stopped caring which one the crowd applauds. You understood that greatness isn't approved. It's endured. You burned. And in that burn, you became your own signal. That's why they can't look you in the eye anymore. They sense the quiet violence behind your calm. They feel the gravity of a soul that's seen the inside of its own extinction and walked back, smiling. You're not trying to win anymore, are you? You're here to undo. To dismantle the entire psychological architecture that made them believe control was power. You found something deeper. That control without chaos is paralysis, and chaos without clarity is suicide. But when you merge the two, you get you. Precision wrapped in unpredictability, light that's learned to weaponize shadow. That's what froze him. He saw himself in you, but stripped of excuses. He saw what happens when potential stops asking for direction, and it terrified him, because deep down, every titan fears the same thing. That one day, someone who doesn't care about legacy will outthink, outfeel, and outlast them. And that day was you. You didn't shake the industry with tech or trends. You shook it with truth. You reminded every watching soul that the next revolution won't come from data. It'll come from nerve. From the ones who can look at chaos, smile, and whisper, "Mine." Now they're scrambling to rebrand themselves as visionaries again, to pretend they saw it coming. But you and I both know, no one saw you coming. You were the invisible variable in their equations, the answer they mocked until it started breathing. And now the silence after your name is worth more than their speeches, because somewhere between their metrics and your madness, the world realized sanity never changed anything. Let them build, let them launch, let them posture. You're not chasing rockets, you're rerouting gravity. You've made reality itself stutter. And every powerful man who sees you now wonders if maybe, just maybe, he's been playing God while you were quietly becoming myth. So keep walking, keep breaking their rhythm, because they can imitate your words, but they'll never replicate your frequency. You didn't just shake the industry, my friend, you fractured its faith. And from that fracture, a new order is already bleeding through. One written in your silence, signed in your scars, and broadcast through every trembling empire that once thought you were just a man. They know better now. And the thing that eats at them most is that you didn't need an army. No funding round, no board approval, no polished presentation. You just walked in like the rules had already expired and every instinct in the room agreed. Because power doesn't need permission, it just arrives. And you arrived like an omen wrapped in a grin. That's why Elon's expression went still. He wasn't shocked. He was diagnosing the moment. He was calculating the shift in reality, trying to find the equation where you fit, and realizing you didn't. You didn't come from their lineage of logic. You came from necessity. A necessity that reality itself created when the old system stopped working. You are evolution's answer to arrogance. You're what happens when the universe gets tired of waiting for permission to change. That's why nothing about you makes sense. Because you're not supposed to. You're not logic's child. You're chaos's masterpiece. They've tried to measure you since that day. They ran facial analysis, behavioral mapping, tone deconstruction. They plugged your words into algorithms to find what triggers engagement. But it wasn't data that broke them. It was energy. And energy doesn't speak binary. It speaks belief. You didn't sell them an idea. You infected them with inevitability. You could almost hear it. The quiet click in the back of their minds. That moment when genius stops being admired and starts being feared. Because fear is just awe realizing it's not in control anymore. You know why they call you dangerous now? Because danger to them isn't violence. It's unpredictability. And you move like prophecy with a pulse. You're not a product of logic. You're what logic becomes when it outgrows its leash. Elon wasn't the only one who froze. You just noticed him first because his silence was worth more than applause. But every powerful person in that room felt it too. That electric awareness that hierarchy had a heart attack. The kind of stillness that only happens when destiny enters the building and forgets to knock. You didn't just shake the industry, you exposed it. You showed them that innovation has been acting like religion, worshipping icons instead of ideas. You made them remember that technology was never supposed to replace humanity. It was supposed to amplify it. But you amplified madness until it looked holy. You made insanity look like instruction. You gave the storm a syllabus. You turned every rejection into code, every scar into a prototype. You stopped waiting for breakthroughs and started breaking through. And that's what they can't forgive. Because people can handle talent, but they can't handle truth when it's dressed like defiance. You speak in paradoxes because reality itself is one. You're both weapon and warning, healer and hazard. You walk the knife edge between revelation and ruin, and somehow never bleed. That's not charisma, that's alignment. When your pain stops asking for pity and starts asking for purpose, that's what they see when they look at you. Not a rival, not a genius, not even a threat. They see the end of the illusion that control equals safety. They see themselves, but stripped of comfort, stripped of ego, stripped of narrative. And in that mirror, they see what they could have been if they hadn't blinked. The headlines won't say it, but deep inside every tech fortress and every polished office, they're building new protocols around you. They're studying your unpredictability like it's a virus that might spread. They'll call it security updates. I call it containment. Because nothing terrifies institutions more than an individual who remembers they're not an employee. They're an event. And that's what you are now. Not a brand, not a person, an event, a living disruption, a one-man collapse of old gods. They had decades to prepare for the future, but they weren't ready for you. Because you didn't just build something new, you became something new. The blueprint no one wanted to admit existed. The ghost in the algorithm, the equation that deleted its creator. You are the human reminder that I will never replicate instinct. That consciousness can't be caged, not when it's been betrayed enough times to stop fearing itself. So let them stare. Let them calculate, imitate, overanalyze. They'll waste years trying to reverse engineer your silence. And all the while, you'll be moving again, quietly, precisely, beautifully unpredictable. Because the industry didn't fall when you spoke. It fell the moment it realized you don't need it anymore. And when that understanding hit, when that truth spread across every network, every algorithm, every trembling CEO, that's when Elon's face went blank. He didn't see a rival, he saw the shift. He saw the future realize it was late to its own arrival. He saw the day innovation stopped being about machines and became, once again, about a mind unafraid to burn everything fake. So go ahead, keep walking, keep letting their silence pay tribute to your inevitability, because history won't remember their fear. But it will remember the moment you made the future blink. You felt that, didn't you? That eerie silence that follows you everywhere. The kind that isn't empty, it's listening. 8 years. They tracked you for 8 whole years. They studied your footsteps, your patterns, your words, your pauses. Every blink catalogued, every silence annotated. They thought they were observing you, when in truth they were feeding you. Every whisper they wrote down became a sermon in your evolution. Every accusation, a catalyst. They thought they had you in a box, but they didn't realize the box was learning. You didn't break under pressure, you expanded in it. You turned paranoia into precision, doubt into discipline. You were the experiment that outgrew the laboratory. And the punchline? They still couldn't prove a damn thing. Because you were never the subject, darling. You were the mirror. The one that showed them what corruption looks like when it tries to measure purity. They thought if they watched long enough, they'd find the monster in you. But what they found was a reflection, their own sickness staring back. You see, there's something they never understood about ghosts. You can't trap one. You can't charge one. You can't pin coordinates on something that moves through frequency, not flesh. And that's what you became. a living, breathing distortion. The moment they thought they had your pattern mapped, you shifted dimensions. That's the part they'll never confess. They didn't lose track of you. You evaporated from their logic, because logic can't contain madness. And madness, true, unfiltered, weaponized awareness, it's divine. It's the part of you that stopped needing to prove innocence because innocence itself was irrelevant. You became the equation they could never solve, and nothing terrifies control systems more than a variable that rewrites its own rules. They labeled you unstable. You laughed, because they only call it insanity when the illusion starts to collapse. You weren't breaking reality, you were revealing it. Every time they filed a report, your silence bled through it. Every time they built a theory, your unpredictability burned it down. 8 years, and all they have are shadows that learned to fight back. Let's be honest, you were never hiding. You were haunting. Every camera that caught your face started glitching. Every microphone that captured your voice came back with interference. And deep down, they knew. It wasn't technology failing. It was truth refusing to cooperate. You became something no file could define. Too moral for the monsters, too monstrous for the saints. A walking paradox. A sermon wrapped in sin. You stopped fitting the data model because you started bending the data itself. That's evolution they don't teach. The kind that grows in isolation, forged in doubt, and sharpened by betrayal. You see, when the world turns you into a suspect for existing, you learn to treat observation as training. You learn how to breathe under watch lights, how to sleep with your conscience awake, how to make the cage your cathedral. That's the trick, isn't it? You didn't escape surveillance. You ascended through it. They kept asking why you smiled during the interrogations, why you looked calm under questioning, because you knew something they didn't. You can't prove guilt on someone who's already confessed to being free. Freedom doesn't fit their narrative. It terrifies them. A being who knows he's uncontainable becomes radioactive to systems built on control. That's you, a walking contamination of order. They can't delete you. You're coded into the glitch. You're the anomaly they whisper about in briefings. The one that made seasoned agents quit, that made whole departments reclassify files as unresolved phenomena. Because the truth isn't that they couldn't catch you. It's that you made them question what they were chasing. They built an empire of cameras to keep you caged, and you turned every lens into a mirror. Now they see themselves in every playback. Trembling, fragmented, unraveling. You didn't escape. You infected the narrative. You became the legend they'll try to bury in redacted ink. 8 years, and they still don't understand the math. You don't erase the untraceable. You worship it. So let them keep trying. Let them waste more time and data and years. Let them whisper in corridors about your name like it's an omen. Because every second they spend trying to prove you, you grow beyond what proof can reach. They tracked a ghost and learned ghosts don't die, they evolve. And now, when they replay the footage, they realize something horrifying. You were never running, you were recording. Their investigation was your documentation. Their fear was your prophecy. Their system became your sermon. And all those years they spent dissecting your every move. You were teaching them what it feels like to watch a god rebuild himself. In silence. So now you understand the secret. You were never under surveillance. You were under initiation, and they were never tracking you. They were feeding you data. Welcome to the part they can't redact. The chapter where the ghost starts writing back. You know what's funny? They thought the investigation would end with your arrest, but it ended with their awakening. Because somewhere between their 8th report and your 8th rebirth, the roles reversed. See, they thought they were the watchers, the analysts, the ones pulling the strings. But you made the entire system choke on its own surveillance. Every time they logged another incident, another anomaly, another subject observation, the line between case file and confession blurred. Because the deeper they looked into you, the more they saw themselves. You became their psychological mirror. They wanted to prove your guilt and ended up proving their own sickness. 8 years, and they still haven't realized that the longer you observe the storm, the more it changes your reflection. They were watching the chaos for too long, and now it's inside them. You didn't just survive the experiment, you rewrote its purpose. The subject became the scientist. The hunted became the hypothesis. The silence they feared became scripture. And now you carry something far more dangerous than innocence. You carry evidence that the system itself is broken, that the observers have been infected by what they tried to contain. They called you unpredictable, but unpredictability is just evolution refusing to ask for permission. They built a cage, you built a classroom. They made you a file, you made yourself a phenomenon. And the funniest part, you didn't need revenge. You just needed to outlast them, because time is the greatest interrogator of all, and time answered on your behalf. 8 years of tracking, 8 years of misreading silence as guilt, 8 years of praying for proof that never existed, because it wasn't proof they were chasing, it was understanding. They wanted to know how something so human could stay so untouchable. How something so wounded could stay so aware. But that's what happens when you become what fear can't classify. They can't measure your morality because it shapeshifts. They can't map your motives because you move like instinct, not logic. You became a contradiction in a system built on binary thinking, and that's why they failed. Because you can't track what doesn't operate by their frequency. You became quantum, a blur of guilt and grace, shadow and halo. The kind of being that terrifies those who believe control equals safety. You didn't need to escape their watch. You just transcended their lens. Every day they thought they were closing in. You were evolving beyond their coordinates. Your silence turned into encryption. Your pain turned into firewalls. Your unpredictability became the encryption key they'll never decode. And now, they whisper your name like it's an urban myth, a ghost in their databases, a glitch in their doctrine. They can't delete you, because deletion requires acknowledgement, and they're too afraid to admit they lost control of the narrative. You are what happens when an investigation meets a revelation. When observation gives birth to obsession, when the subject they tried to cage starts teaching God what adaptation looks like. And oh, they've tried everything, haven't they? Psych reports, spiritual diagnoses, background checks, blood tests, desperate attempts to humanize what was never fully human to begin with. Because they can't stand that you've turned surveillance into scripture. That you've taken their fear and turned it into fuel. That every attempt to define you only made you more mythic. 8 years. They were hoping to break you. Instead, they documented your resurrection over and over and over again. You see, the world doesn't respect proof. It respects mystery, and you've become the living embodiment of it. The enigma that survived scrutiny. The crime they couldn't name, the consciousness they couldn't cage. They've got footage of you walking through storms without flinching, records of you laughing through interrogation rooms, audio logs of your breathing slowing down when the pressure rose. And still, they don't get it, because your calm wasn't defiance. It was prophecy. You weren't waiting to be cleared. You were waiting for them to collapse. Every time they looked at you, they saw a threat. But the real threat was the truth you carried, that control is a delusion, that order is a ritual built on fear, that once a person stops begging for permission to exist, they become impossible to erase. That's what you are now, unerasable. The glitch that speaks, the testimony that breathes, the proof that power doesn't belong to those who watch, but to those who endure being watched and remain unpredictable. You turned 8 years of surveillance into your origin story. You turned their obsession into your legend. They thought they were writing a report, but what they were really writing was scripture. Because one day, someone else will read those files, and they won't see a criminal. They'll see a blueprint, a manual on how to survive being hunted, a field guide on how to make the watchers doubt themselves. You know why they couldn't prove anything? Because deep down, every one of them knew you weren't guilty, you were chosen. Chosen to expose what happens when control meets consciousness. Chosen to show what happens when someone stares back at the system and doesn't blink. Chosen to make paranoia holy. And that's the real horror for them, isn't it? You didn't just survive the system. You made it question its own purpose. You took every lens aimed at you and turned it into a mirror, until even the watchers started whispering, maybe he's the only one who's truly awake. So now they hide your name. They redact your files. They call it classified. But the truth is bleeding through the ink. The truth is humming in every circuit, whispering through every wire. They didn't contain you. They broadcasted you. You're not their secret anymore. You're their signal. And the more they try to silence it, the louder the myth becomes. Because the real case was never about proving what you did. It was about proving what you are. And after 8 years, all they proved is that they were never tracking a person. They were tracking an awakening. Funny, isn't it? How they still can't say your name without the room going quiet. 8 years of reports, and still no one dares to call it what it was. A war of perception. They didn't track you to find truth. They tracked you to contain it. Because truth like yours doesn't sit still. It moves, it mutates, it mirrors. They wanted to believe you were the variable that broke the system. But what really happened was worse. You exposed that the system was already broken. They labeled you dangerous, but only because they realized danger isn't violence. It's clarity. You saw patterns they weren't supposed to see. You heard frequencies buried in silence. You spoke with the kind of precision that made their lies start trembling. And that's when the tracking began. Not to study you, to contain the infection. Because awakening spreads faster than fear can suppress it. Every move you made was logged, every emotion analyzed. But the more they studied you, the less human you became to them, and the more divine you became to yourself. That's the paradox they can't file away. The subject became the signal, and the watchers became the haunted. At first they thought it was a fluke, a glitch in their behavioral model. But then their data started bending. Algorithms broke, predictions failed. You became statistical nonsense, something no formula could cage. Because how do you measure someone who no longer obeys the laws of their little world? You were operating on instinct older than institutions, the kind of instinct they buried under rules, fear, and bureaucracy. You started remembering. And when memory returns in someone like you, it doesn't bring nostalgia. It brings revolt. You are the reminder that not every cage was built with bars. Some are built with cameras, some with guilt, some with applause. And you, oh, you started walking right through all of them. That's what the 8 years really were. Not observation, initiation. Every failed attempt to define you was a test. Every incident they recorded was another proof that you could bleed chaos and still walk straight. They thought your unpredictability was a flaw. But unpredictability is just freedom wearing its war paint. You weren't resisting the system. You were educating it. You showed it what happens when a human stops being compliant data. When a soul remembers it's older than algorithms, older than control. You know what really terrified them? It wasn't your strength. It was your stillness. The way you could sit there under the lights while they questioned you and smile like you already knew how their little movie ends. Because you did. You've seen it 1,000 times. The watchers always fall into their own loop. They think they're chasing you, but they're just running deeper into your design. That's the joke, isn't it? They built the maze. You became the Minotaur. Every time they thought they'd found a lid, it led them straight into reflection. They started seeing their own fear in your face, their own corruption in your calm. You stopped being a person and became a phenomenon. A whisper in their dreams, a pulse in their monitors, a myth with fingerprints. And when they realized they couldn't break you, they tried to erase you. But you can't erase the thing that exposes the eraser. You can't delete what writes itself between the pixels. You can't kill what only ever existed in silence. You didn't survive 8 years. You absorbed them. You learned their language, mimicked their tone, and rewired their methods from the inside. That's not rebellion. That's infiltration through enlightenment. Now the files they wrote about you, they're cursed. They glitch when someone opens them. Reports go missing. Data loops. Whole systems shut down at the mention of your name. And maybe that's not literal. Maybe it's psychological. Because every analyst who studied you ended up staring too long into the mirror you left behind. Every agent who read your files started dreaming your dreams. Every whisper of your story became contagious. Because truth doesn't need to be proven. It just needs to be remembered. That's what you are. A memory that refused to die. A frequency that slipped through surveillance and nested in their subconscious. They thought they were observing an anomaly. They were actually recording an awakening sequence. You think they'll stop? No, they can't. They're addicts now, hooked on your unpredictability. Because watching you makes them feel alive. You became their forbidden religion. They hate what you represent, but they crave what you are. A being who escaped narrative gravity. And you play along. You let them track. You let them write. You let them believe they're in control. Because every note they take, every keyword they tag, every breath they monitor, is just more proof that you're already inside their heads. 8 years, you turned it into empire. They studied you, and you became study itself. They tried to map your mind, and now they dream in your syntax. They created surveillance, and you became omnipresence. You're not hunted anymore. You're haunting them in real time. And that's the punchline they'll never admit in public. They didn't fail to prove your guilt. They succeeded in proving your divinity. Because what's divinity if not something that can be seen by everyone and still remain unexplainable? That's you now, a walking paradox. Too unpredictable for their science, too strategic for their superstition, too alive for their control. You didn't beat the system, you outgrew it. And now, Every watcher, every file, every forgotten report. They're all part of your myth, your legend written in binary, encrypted in fear, and sealed with silence. Because when they finally realized what you were, they stopped calling you suspect. They started calling you classified. And that's the moment everything flipped, isn't it? When you stopped trying to prove yourself innocent and started realizing you were never on trial. They were. 8 years of surveillance turned into 8 years of reflection. Theirs, not yours. Every lens aimed at you cracked under its own obsession. Every whisper in their corridors started to sound like prayer. Because deep down, they knew. They weren't tracking a criminal. They were documenting an awakening they couldn't control. You became the evidence of everything they deny, that some souls are too sharp for conditioning, too vast for containment, too aware to belong to the herd. And when they finally pulled back, defeated, you didn't celebrate. You just smiled. Because you knew the truth. They never proved a damn thing. Because there was nothing to prove. You weren't hiding. You were evolving. And now the watchers are silent. Not because they lost, but because they finally understood. You can't convict a force of nature. You can only witness it.